Good morning. You've joined us here on ET Now. You're watching Market Cafe. I'm Ashesha Adwari. And first up, let's take a look at how global cues have shaped up over the weekend. And as far as the GIFT Nifty is concerned, that is trading with a cut of nearly 195 points as we speak. 2446 is where the GIFT Nifty is trading at this point in time. So clearly, on the back of everything that happened in the geopolitical front, the fact that West Asia conflict has escalated over the weekend clearly seems to be weighing heavy on the GIFT Nifty this morning. Meanwhile, as far as the US markets are concerned, all three major indices ended in the green on Friday. Dow Jones ended 0.3% higher. We also had Nasdaq, which ended 0.3% higher on Friday, and S&P 500 ended at that 7575 mark, indicating an increase of about 0.4% in Friday's trading session. But remember, several individual stocks were in focus on Friday. Meta, for instance, was in focus. We also had SK Hynix, which got listed on Wall Street on Friday at a bumper premium. So that was another counter that was in focus. But as far as US market futures are concerned, that is indicating a quiet start for US futures. We should also have that for you on your screens because we have seen a lot of volatility over the weekend, and that seems to be weighing heavy on US market futures this morning. Shifting focus to how Asia is doing, and it's a mixed picture coming in for Asian markets this morning. Shanghai is down more than 1% in today's trading session. Hang Seng on the flip side is up 0.8% as we speak, a solid 190-point rally coming in for the Hong Kong market. Nikkei, that's the Japanese market, is down 1.7%, and Kospi, in fact, is sitting with a cut of 4% in today's trading session. So clearly, barring Hang Seng, all other Asian markets have opened in the red yesterday. And as I mentioned, GIFT Nifty is also suggesting a 200-point decline at start for Indian equity markets on the back of negative developments that we had on the geopolitical front over the weekend. But shifting focus to the commodity market then, and Brent crude has spiked up yet again. In fact, Brent crude has shot up nearly 4% this morning to now trade at $80 per barrel. This is on account of Strait of Hormuz being blocked yet again over the weekend on account of strikes that we saw in West Asia. So that clearly seems to be weighing heavy on the oil market. Brent futures have risen nearly 4% over the weekend, and WTI is now trading over $74 per barrel mark. But shifting focus to the precious metals basket then, and gold has seen a decline that has slipped below $4,100 per ounce, and US 10-year yields have also risen overnight and today morning. So yes, Brent crude prices have shot up yet again, precious metals have seen a decline, and US market futures are trading with losses this morning, with Asian markets barring Hang Seng, all other sectoral indices trading with losses this morning, and GIFT Nifty is also suggesting a negative start for Indian equity markets. But shifting focus to the biggest global story this morning then, and tensions between US and Iran remain at the highest level that we have seen in weeks. The US has carried out fresh strikes on Iranian targets after attacks on commercial shipping, while Iran has retaliated with strikes targeting locations in Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, and Oman that host US military assets. The Strait of Hormuz remains the biggest flashpoint. Iran says navigation remains restricted, while US President Donald Trump and US Central Command insist that the waterway is fully open and US forces are positioned to ensure freedom of navigation. Sumita Karir, my colleague, is now joining us with more details on everything that has happened overnight. Sumita?
That's right. There's been a severe uptick in tensions in West Asia over the past couple of days. And of course, tensions have only escalated in the past couple of hours because Iran has claimed attacks on Jordan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, targeting US military facilities in these regions. In fact, Iran had earlier on stated as well that any side that seemed to be supporting the United States is going to be a quote-unquote legitimate target. And of course, this after the United States launched a fresh wave of strikes against Iran. So explosions were heard in Bushehr, Bandar Abbas, Sirik, and Chabahar. Now, what has led to this fresh wave of strikes is the fact that, there have been a bunch of vessels that have been attacked. And in fact, this is something that India has also dismissed as well. The attack of commercial shipping vessels that India has also condemned in its latest statement. So, of course, on the Strait of Hormuz, US CENTCOM has said that US forces are positioned and prepared to ensure that freedom of navigation in Hormuz takes place and that Iran does not control the Strait of Hormuz. President Donald Trump also stated along the same lines a couple of days back that the Strait of Hormuz is open. However, the Persian Gulf Strait Authority has insisted that no travel is allowed until stability is restored. Now, there is this massive question over the Strait of Hormuz. In fact, ever since the war began, the Strait of Hormuz has been at the center of all of these skirmishes and attacks and strikes and counterattacks. In fact, in the MOU that was signed between both sides in June this year, regarding the Strait of Hormuz, there was an arrangement or an agreement that the Strait of Hormuz is going to reopen and that Iran is going to make arrangements for the safe passage of vessels, and Iran and Oman in future will conduct dialogue for the administration of the Strait of Hormuz. So, of course, there's been a breach of this very MOU, this very feature of the MOU, and in fact, both the sides have leveled allegations about the MOU being a breach, whether it is the United States or Iran.
Okay, Sumita, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But shifting focus then, and a major development from the US, veteran Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has passed away at the age of 71 following what his office described as a brief and sudden illness. He had just returned from a visit to Ukraine and was among President Donald Trump's closest allies in Capitol Hill. His death leaves a key vacancy in the Republican ranks, with South Carolina's governor now set to appoint an interim replacement before a special election later this year. And a fire at a popular pub in Bangkok has killed 27 people, with 63 injured. This is one of the deadliest such incidents in tourism hub in the recent years. The Prime Minister, who visited the site, said that the pub rapidly filled with smoke after a fire broke out, forcing many to run to the back of the venue near the bathrooms. And with Argentina qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup semi-finals after securing a 3-1 victory over Switzerland, the tournament has produced a historic lineup. Argentina, France, Spain and England, the world's top 4 ranked teams before the tournament, have all reached the semi-finals. It is the first time this has happened since FIFA introduced the men's world ranking in December 1992. And it's double delight for the world of tennis. World's #1 Jannik Sinner has successfully defended his Wimbledon crown, defeating Alexander in a 4-set final to defeat the title at the All England Club. Earlier, Linda Noskova scripted history by winning her maiden Grand Slam title, defeating fellow chess Carolina in the women's singles final. And shifting focus back home, then the Adani Group is setting up its focus on STEM education and scientific research. In partnership with the US-based Center for Excellence in Education, the group has concluded the second edition of the Research Science Initiative, or RSI India, at the Indian Institute of Science in Bengaluru. The 6-week, fully funded program brought together 32 high school students from across the country who worked on advanced research projects under the mentorship of IISc faculty. Modeled on the prestigious MIT Research Science Initiative, the program aims to nurture India's next generation of scientists and innovators. Listen in to an excerpt of this conversation.
This program is basically something which is being done for the high school students. The idea is that high school is when you make your career decisions. And in India, most of the high schoolers want to either do medicine or engineering, and they get stuck into that design because either the peer pressure or parental pressure or their siblings are doing it, that's why they want to do it. However, as in India, we have a very big demand for pure sciences researchers who do pure sciences and do new discovery, new innovations for India. And from that perspective, we really need people who can champion STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and medicine in India. And this program, idea of this program to have students as young as these guys to come to the program so they can pick up the careers in STEM. So the best way to make them pick up science is to giving them a flavor of science. So this institute gives them a flavor of science, makes them work towards a problem which is interesting, so they can appreciate what it takes to do good science. And using that platform, we want to, inculcate the next generation of researchers in India. And that's the purpose of this program.
And shifting focus then, food regulators FSSAI has issued 9 notices to Swiggy Instamart following multiple consumer complaints over alleged delivery of expired, spoiled and contaminated food products. The regulator has now sought a detailed compliance report, warning that failure to respond satisfactorily could invite legal action under the Food Safety and Standards Act. Kuldeep is now joining us with more details on this.
Well, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India has issued 9 notices to Swiggy Instamart following the complaints of various consumers that unsafe food being sold through the platform. As per the consumers, as per the complaints, the Swiggy Instamart supplied expired food products or rotten food products to multiple consumers, and there have been a lot of complaints which were raised over social media, and following that the FSSAI has issued notices to Swiggy. In the notices, the FSSAI has demanded that Swiggy must submit a detailed explanation supported by documentary evidence addressing the alleged non-compliances and circumstances leading to the reported incidents. The FSSAI also sought details of quality assurance, food safety monitoring, inventory management, stock rotation, hygiene, storage, handling practices, and internal controls adopted to ensure food safety compliance. Well, this is not the first notice that has been issued to Swiggy Instamart. In fact, 2 days before, the FSSAI had issued notice to Swiggy over towing platform. There were some issues related to the licensing with respect to towing platform, and on that matter, a notice was issued to Swiggy Instamart because towing is a subsidiary of Swiggy. Well, in its response to the latest notices of FSSAI, Swiggy has stated that they have been reviewing all the notices, and they will accordingly, they are in touch with the officials and they will accordingly take necessary action.
Okay, Kuldeep, thanks so much for joining us. Swiggy will be in focus on the back of that. But shifting focus then, the Finance Ministry is stepping up its review of the financial sector's preparedness amid ongoing uncertainty in West Asia. Sources tell ET Now that the Finance Minister will chair a meeting with public sector banks and other financial institutions today to assess the potential fallout from the geopolitical crisis. Prakash Priyadarshi is now joining us with what the expectations are.
Well, the Finance Minister will chair an important meeting with public sector banks and other financial institutions to review the measures announced by the Finance Ministry to mitigate the impact of the West Asia crisis. You are aware of the fact that the Finance Ministry has already announced rupees 2.5 lakh crore emergency credit line guarantee scheme to support sectors affected by the West Asia crisis. And therefore, the Finance Minister will review the impact of these measures on these sectors, a very significant development coming in at this point in time. In fact, we have learned that the Finance Minister may review the status of foreign currency non-resident bank deposits, overseas foreign currency borrowings, and external commercial borrowings, which are important to strengthen banks' funding base and attract overseas capital amid rising credit demand. In fact, Indian banking system has witnessed sustained, sustained credit demand in recent years, while deposit growth is muted or relatively slower. Therefore, efforts are being made to diversify the capital base, a very crucial development. In fact, higher foreign currency non-resident bank deposits would strengthen banks' foreign currency resources, improve liquidity support, and countries' foreign exchange reserves. In addition to that, issues related to Mito's AI and banks' preparedness are likely to be on the agenda as well.
All eyes will be on that meeting today. Thanks so much, Prakash, for joining us with all those details. But let's shift focus then. Several individual stocks will be in focus today. Which are those? Meryl is now joining us with a list of exactly that. Meryl, good morning.
A very good morning. Yes, let's now take a look at some of the stocks which are expected to be in the spotlight today. Starting first with oil market companies, which could see a lot of buying interest after Brent crude prices have surged nearly 4%, reaching $79 per barrel. Now, higher crude prices, however, could mean a negative for paint makers, the likes of Asian Paints, and also stocks like Interglobe Aviation, where both of these sectors see an indirect correlation with crude prices. As for them, it means higher input costs and fuel costs as well. Another stock in focus is Good Luck India. The board has approved a 2-for-1 bonus issue, meaning that every shareholder of the company will receive 2 bonus shares for every single one held. Also in focus is JSW Energy. It has secured orders worth nearly 444 crores from Bondara Renewable Energy. Now this is for the supply of Battery Energy Storage System or BESS and also for the Power Conversion System Solutions, providing a positive trigger for the stock. On the flip side, Keystone Realtors have reported a weak operational update this time around. First quarter pre-sales for the company have fallen up to 42% on a year-on-year basis, reaching 617 crores from the last year's figure of 1,668 crores. Fino Payments Bank, on the flip side, has posted a healthy business update. They've seen new account openings rising 31% year-on-year, reaching 3.13 lakh, while average total deposits for the company increased 11%. And finally, Idea Forge Technology is another name which we're going to watch closely. The company has successfully closed its 500 crore QIP, issuing shares at 795 rupees a piece, a 4.9% discount to the initially maintained floor price. So yes, these are some stocks that we're expecting to see buzzing in trade today.
Meryl, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But there are a couple of other counters that will also be in focus on the back of news pieces and earnings. Rabinder is now joining us with that list. Rabinder, morning.
Well, as on the back of Q1 FY26 earnings, Just Dial can be in focus. Just Dial reported overall inline set of number in Q1 FY27. Revenue saw an uptick of 10% on a yearly basis, but margin declined on a year-on-year basis mainly, and this is mainly because company's other expenses has increased by 29% on a yearly basis, and quarterly unique visitors reported a growth of 5.8% on a sequential basis and flat growth on a yearly basis. Power Grid can be in focus. Company declared the successful bidder under the tariff-based competitive bidding process for the transmission system for integration of Krishnagiri REZ phase 1 of project. So back of this, these stocks can react positively. Apart from this, keep an eye on Adani Green Energy, where company reported operational update and operational capacity has increased to 27% to 20,142 megawatt, and sale of energy rises to 30% to 13,657 MU. Lux Industries can be in focus where Lux Cozy Group's lays foundation stones of approximately 600 crore manufacturing facility in West Bengal, and this facility is set to create one of Asia's largest garment manufacturing plant. Keep an eye on State Bank of India, where SBI has revised the size of its OFS in the SBI Fund Management IPO to 9.95 crore, which is 4.89% stake from 12.83 crore shares, which was 6.3% stake following the pre-IPO stake sale, while the total IPO size now stands at 17.10 crore shares, which is 8.39 stake. IRIDA can be in focus, where the receivables from the Gensol Group has declared fraud with a totaling of rupees 673 crore. Keep an eye on HUDCO, where HUDCO has signed a MOU with the government of Odisha, and as per this MOU, HUDCO aims to provide terms loans to extent of rupees 1 lakh crore over a period of 5 years. Standard Engineering can be in focus, where board approved raising of approximately 137 crore through a preferential issue of 46.5 lakh equity shares at 293 per share. And lastly, keep an eye on NTPC, where the board has approved the investment proposal for the Lara Super Thermal Power Project Stage 3 with an estimated cost of 20,456.7 crore. So back of this, NTPC can be in focus.
Yes, several stocks in focus on the back of news pieces and earnings. Rabinder, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. But shifting focus then to the consumption basket, we have Avenue Supermarts that reported its numbers over the weekend and largely in line with what we were working with. Now remember, a revenue figure was reported by the company earlier itself in its operational updates, and that indicated a jump of nearly 15% on a year-on-year basis. Now the rate of growth has slowed down over the last few quarters. In the fourth quarter of FY26, the company had reported a 19% growth, and that slowed down to 15% in the first quarter of FY27. Other than that, as far as the same-store sales growth or the like-for-like growth is concerned, that too has slowed down in the quarter gone by. So if we look at the numbers, it came in at about 5.5% in the quarter gone by versus 7.1% that the company had reported same time last year. And even on a sequential basis, like-for-like growth has seen a decline this time around. So that could be a concern for the street. But other than that, as far as brokerages are concerned, we have Axis Capital, which has maintained ad rating, but they've cut their target price to 4650 from 5050 earlier. Bernstein has maintained hold, 4,500 is the target price. Systematics, meanwhile, has gone ahead and marginally hiked its target price to 4,389. But Dolat Capital has cut its target price to 4,580. So brokerage houses are divided, but the numbers were largely in line with what the street was working with. But the important takeaway for Avenue Supermarts is that 15% YOY growth is good, but the pace of growth has slowed down both on a sequential and on a year-on-year basis, and like-for-like growth too has slowed down, and that could be a concern. Although margins have come in at 8.3% versus ET Now poll of about 8.2%, so marginally higher on the margin front. But shifting focus then, LTI Mindtree or LTM also reported an in-line set of numbers for the first quarter FY27, with dollar revenue largely flat and EBIT rising 5% on a sequential basis. The management guides for a stronger second quarter, and Avi is now joining us with all the details and also what the management commentary has turned out to be for the rest of FY27. Avi, morning.
So LTI Mindtree has come out with its Q1 FY27 set of results, and the results overall were largely in line. The revenue remains flattish with $1,233 million, while the EBIT margins increased by 5%. While the EBIT increased by 5% and the EBIT margins increased by around 36 bips. The PAT also increased by around 5%. Talking about some of the key highlights, the CC growth remained in the range of estimation between 0 to 0.4% and came in at 0.3%. The trailing 12 months attrition also remained same as of the last quarter. Talking about the active clients dropped around by 740 clients, which was at around 751 in the last quarter, while the addition of new clients was more than what was done in the last quarter. The order inflows also remained flattish on a quarterly basis, but was up around 3% on a yearly basis. Talking about the segmental trend, we can see that the BFSI and the technology and services outperformed their estimation, while the BFSI was up around 6.3% on a quarterly basis. The technology sector was up around 5.8% on a quarterly basis. Talking about some of the key highlights from the Q1 FY27 con call, which the management conducted, they guided that their AI business continued to scale with around $600 million of annualized run rate for the AI business. The deal momentum also remained healthy with $1.7 billion of order book, including 2 large AI-led deals. The management expects the growth to accelerate in Q2 and sustain the momentum for the second half of the year. The management reiterated the confidence to have a stronger than FY26 year for FY27 with a AI-led demand and a healthy pipeline. Talking about some of the brokerages that came in for LTI Mindtree results, MK maintained their ad rating with a target price of 4350. They believed that although there were macro headwinds for the company, the margins were more resilient than what they were expecting. Talking about Nuvama, they reduced the target price from 6,200 to now at 5,500 and maintained a buy call on the stock. They said that the headlines results were soft for LTM, but the underlying base of demand was strong, led by BFSI and the high-tech US growth. And Nuvama also awaits further clarity for the Randstad IT acquisition to price in the estimates for that as well.
Okay, Avi, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. So LTI Mindtree in focus on the back of that. The numbers were in line, but the management commentary for the rest of the year is very positive. But shifting focus then, and it was a healthy quarter for L&T Finance, with PAT rising 28% on a year-on-year basis. Healthy traction in rural business finance was very strong, and asset quality improved on a sequential basis. We have Mithali, who is now joining us with more details and why L&T Finance will be in focus today. Mithali?
Right, talking about L&T Finance, the company has started on a stronger note for FY27, and if you see, they have also reported their highest ever quarterly net profit of 902 odd crore rupees, which is up 29% on a yearly basis. Talking about their growth, so consolidated loan book, it has expanded nearly 27% yearly, comfortably ahead of the management's FY27 growth guidance of 20%. Also, disbursements, they rose 36%, although some moderation was seen on a sequential basis, and also visible the moderation in their rural business finance as well as the gold loan book. On the revenue side, the picture is more nuanced. The core net interest margins that particular figure, it came under pressure during the quarter, but it was largely offset by a sharp increase in their fee income, keeping the NIMS plus fee, that figure at 10.47% stable on a quarterly basis, and also right at the upper end of the management's guided figure of 10 to 10.5%. The operating leverage, it continued to emerge, with OPEX to assets improving to 4.03%, up from decreased from the 4.14% in the previous quarter. The key disappointment, however, it remains the credit cost at 2.54%. The credit cost has improved merely by 10 basis points sequentially and remains above the management's Q4 FY27 exit guidance of 2 to 2.2%. Return on assets, it has also improved to 2.48%, but management still has some distance to cover in order to achieve their guided range of at least 2.8% by the fourth quarter. So the key debate from here is straightforward in terms of growth, which is running ahead of the guidance. How sustainable is that growth? Also, the revenue margins are holding with support from fees coming in, but we'll have to figure out if this fees, that spike is sustainable or just a one-time off, and also that the delivery of FY27 profitability targets, that remains a key question as of now for L&T Finance.
Okay, so that's the review on L&T Finance numbers. The stock will react to that today. Mithali, thanks so much for joining us. But that's all the time we have in this edition of the show. GIFT Nifty is suggesting a negative start, 200-point decline for Indian equity markets. The market will take all the market action forward after this very short break. Stay tuned.